The Kalksari raiders burst through the doors of Zenith Station's education wing with plasma rifles raised and cruel grins spreading across their 6 mandibles. They expected screaming. They expected chaos. They expected easy prey. What they got was Maya-chan, 16 years old, standing perfectly still in the hallway with her school bag slung over one shoulder. The lead raider, a creature named Vexith who stood nearly 8 feet tall, tilted his chin in his head and laughed. The sound came out wet and gurgling, like something drowning in its own amusement. His translator crackled to life. Look at this. A tiny human child. Alone. Maya set her bag down slowly, carefully, with the kind of precision that should have warned them, but predators from soft worlds rarely recognize the signs. She straightened up and smiled, and that smile held no fear whatsoever. Instead, it carried something else entirely, something ancient and cold and absolutely furious. You picked the wrong station, she said quietly, and definitely the wrong hallway. Vexitha's laugh intensified. His 3 companions joined in, their weapons lowering slightly as they viewed the small human female as nothing more than an amusing distraction. In their culture, children were fragile things, protected and sheltered until they reached full maturity at age 40. This creature before them barely looked capable of lifting their smallest weapon. The human makes jokes, Vexa gurgled. Perhaps we keep you. Sell you to the entertainment pits. They pay well for exotic dancers. Maya's smile widened, and her eyes went flat and dead in a way that would have terrified anyone who actually understood Deathworld evolution. Entertainment, she repeated, rolling the word around her mouth like she was tasting it. You know what's entertaining? The fact that you idiots just activated the station's lockdown by forcing those doors. You know what that means. The raiders exchanged glances, their mandibles clicking in what passed for confused conversation among their kind. It means, Maya continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, that security is sealed, airlocks are frozen, and you're trapped in here. With me. Vexith raised his rifle, amusement fading into irritation. Enough talking, little human. You come with us now, or you die here. Choose quickly. Maya's response was to laugh, not a nervous giggle or a frightened whimper. A genuine, full-throated laugh that echoed down the corridor and made the raiders take an involuntary step backward. Oh, you think those plasma rifles scare me? She shook her head, still grinning. Let me tell you something about humans. We're from Earth. Maybe you've heard of it? Category 5 Deathworld, where literally everything is trying to kill everything else. Every single second of every single day. She started walking toward them, slow and steady, and there was something in her gait that made Vexitha's second-in-command, a female named Shrix, tighten her grip on her weapon. We got spiders whose venom can kill in minutes. Plants that cause pain so intense that people beg for death. Mammals that weigh 8 tons and get angry if you look at them wrong. Lizards whose bite is crawling with bacteria that causes your flesh to rot off while you're still breathing. Maya paused, cocking her head to one side, and her smile turned absolutely savage. And that's just the wildlife. Want to know what we do to each other? For fun? For sport? For absolutely no reason at all, except that we got bored on a Tuesday afternoon. Vexitha's rifle came up fully now, tracking her movement. Stop walking, human. I will not warn you again. See, here's the thing about Earth, Maya continued, completely ignoring the weapon pointed at her chest. We don't just survive it. We thrive in it. We conquered it. We looked at a planet that was actively trying to murder us in thousands of creative ways, and we said, yeah, we're going to put flags on that and build cities and invent jazz music. She was 15 feet away now. 10 feet. The raiders' weapons were all aimed at her, but none of them had fired yet, and that hesitation was going to cost them everything. So when you walk into my school, with your cute little plasma toys and your clicking mandibles and your threats, when you think you can just take human children and sell them like property. Maya stopped walking, planted her feet shoulder-width apart, and let her backpack slide off her shoulder to hit the floor with a heavy thunk. You're not hunters, you idiots. You're prey. Vexitha's finger tightened on the trigger, but Maya was already moving. She went low and fast, covering the remaining distance in a burst of speed that shouldn't have been possible for something her size. The plasma bolt seared through the air where her head had been half a second earlier, leaving scorch marks on the wall behind her. Her shoulder slammed into Vexta's midsection with enough force to crack chitin, and the big raider went down hard, all 8 feet of him crashing to the deck plates like a demolished building. Maya rolled over him, grabbed his rifle, spun around, and brought the stock down on his primary breathing orifice with a crunch that echoed like breaking pottery. Strix fired, but Maya was already behind Vexta's falling body, using his bulk as a shield. The plasma bolt hit her companion instead, and he started screaming, thrashing, dying. "Oops," Maya called out cheerfully. Friendly fire. That's embarrassing. The third raider, a younger male named Krenix, rushed her with a vibroblade extended. He was fast for his species, probably considered quite the warrior back home. Maya caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted it backward with a snap that made Strix flinch, plucked the vibroblade from his suddenly nerveless fingers, and drove it up under his mandibles and into what passed for his brain. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. 2 down, Maya announced, spinning to face the remaining raiders. Her hair had come loose from its ponytail, and there was bright purple blood, Calxari blood, splattered across her school uniform. She looked like something out of a nightmare. She looked like she was having the time of her life. "You're insane," Strix whispered, her weapon shaking in her grip. "Nah," Maya replied, examining the vibroblade with interest. "I'm 16. There's a difference. See, at 16, we humans are just hitting our physical peak. Reflexes are sharp. Healing is fast. And we're old enough to have learned how to fight, but young enough that we haven't figured out consequences yet, which makes us, and I cannot stress this enough, really, really dangerous when you make us mad." The fourth raider, whose name didn't matter anymore, turned and ran. He made it perhaps 20 feet before Maya's commandeer plasma rifle bolt caught him between the shoulder blades. He hit the floor and didn't move again. Strix was backing away now, her weapon forgotten, her translator spitting out what were probably prayers or pleas in her native language. Maya advanced on her slowly, deliberately, giving her plenty of time to understand exactly how badly this had all gone wrong. "Here's what's going to happen," Maya said conversationally. "You're going to drop that rifle. Then you're going to answer some questions. Like how many more of you there are on this station, and where you're keeping the other students you grabbed. And if you lie to me even once, I'm going to start removing your limbs one at a time until you remember the truth. Sound fair?" Strix's weapon clattered to the deck. 12, she gurgled out. 12 more of us. Docking Bay 3. The humans are in cargo container 7. Please, please, I have spawned. "So, do the people you're going to sell," Maya replied coldly. "But I tell you what, you cooperate fully, and I'll make sure you get to see them again. After a nice long stay in human prison, learning all about consequence." She grabbed Strix by one of her secondary arms and started dragging her down the corridor toward the security station. Behind them, the hallway looked like something out of a war zone. Scorch marks on the walls, bodies cooling on the deck, blood, both red and purple, forming abstract patterns on the floor. And Maya Chun, 16 years old, straight-A student, member of the chess club and the track team, walked through it all without a backward glance. Her hands were steady. Her breathing was calm. This was just Tuesday, Deathworld style. When they reached the security checkpoint, she shoved Strix into a chair and activated the station-wide comms. "Attention all Calxari raiders," she said sweetly into the microphone. "This is Maya Chun, and I've just killed 4 of your friends. Well, 3 of them. One of you shot your own guy, which was hilarious. Anyway, here's the deal. You have 2 choices. Choice 1, you surrender immediately, release all hostages, and throw yourselves on the mercy of station security. Choice 2, you don't, and I come find you myself." She paused for dramatic effect, enjoying the terrified clicking sound Strix was making beside her. "Now, I know what you're thinking. She's just one little human girl. There are 12 of us left. We have weapons and training and experience. How much damage could she possibly do?" Maya's grin turned absolutely feral. Let me tell you about my great-great-great-grandmother. Her name was Sarah, and when she was 19, she fought in something we called World War II. She stormed beaches under machine gun fire. She patched up wounded soldiers while bombs fell around her. She watched her friends die and kept moving forward anyway. And you know what she told me before she passed? She said the secret to surviving impossible situations is simple. You just refuse to die. You get stubborn about it. You make death work for the privilege of taking you. She leaned closer to the microphone, and her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than any shout. I'm my great-great-great-grandmother's legacy. I'm from a world that spent 4 billion years perfecting the art of making survivors. I've got her stubbornness in my DNA. So please choose option 2, because I could really use the stress relief. Silence filled the comm channel for a long moment. Then, crackling through the speakers came a different voice, older and rougher than Vexita's had been. We surrender. Releasing hostages now. Please do not come for us. Maya sat back in her chair and smiled at Shrix, whose mandibles were trembling so hard they were clicking like castanets. See, Maya said brightly. Communication. That's how you solve problems. Although I have to admit, I'm a little disappointed. I was really looking forward to part 2 of this whole situation. The leader of the Kalksari Raiders, a grizzled veteran named Cormith, had seen combat on 17 worlds. He'd faced down Tyrillian war beasts, survived the killing field of Proxima 6, and once held position against a vaccine assault for 3 straight days without reinforcement. None of that, absolutely none of it, had prepared him for the sight of Maya Chin walking into docking bay 3 with Shrix bound and stumbling ahead of her. The human child looked like she just finished gym class, a little disheveled, sure, some blood on her clothes, but she was smiling like she just aced a test she forgot to study for. Behind her, through the still open bay doors, Cormac could see the trail of bodies she'd left in her wake. So, Maya announced cheerfully, shoving Shrix forward into the bay. Who's in charge here? Because we need to have a little chat about boundaries and appropriate behavior and why you don't mess with human children. Cormitha's 11 remaining raiders had their weapons raised, creating a semicircle of firepower that should have cut the girl in half the moment she crossed the threshold. Should have. But something in the way she moved, the absolute confidence in her stride, the complete absence of fear in her eyes, made 11 experienced soldiers hesitate. I am Cormith, he said slowly, his translator rendering his words in a flat, emotionless standard. We surrender. We are releasing hostages. There is no need for more violence. Oh, I know you surrender, Maya replied, stopping about 20 feet from the nearest raider. I heard you on the comm. Very sensible decision, by the way. Gold star for you. But see, here's my problem. You came onto my station. You terrorized my classmates. You killed 3 teachers and 4 civilians. And you did all of that because you thought we were easy targets. Because you thought humans were soft. She started walking again, a slow circuit around the bay's perimeter, forcing the raiders to turn and track her movement. It was a predator's tactic, keeping them off balance, making them choose between watching her and watching each other. I need you to understand something before station security gets here, Maya continued. I need you to really, truly comprehend the mistake you made today. So I'm going to tell you a story. You like stories, Cormith? The old raider's mandibles twitched in what might have been a nod. His eyes, all 6 of them, tracked Maya's movement with the intensity of a creature that had just realized it was being hunted. When humans were young, Maya began, her voice taking on the cadence of a teacher, explaining a particularly important lesson. We were prey animals. Small, weak, couldn't run as fast as the big predators, couldn't climb as well as the arboreal hunters, couldn't fight off the pack carnivores that wanted to eat us. By every logical measure, we should have gone extinct. She paused by a stack of cargo containers where she could see frightened human faces pressed against the small viewing ports. Her classmates, her friends, all of them staring at her like she'd grown a second head. But we had one advantage, Maya continued, her smile never wavering. We were smart, and we were social, and we were absolutely, ruthlessly unwilling to give up. So You know what we did? We made weapons. We made fire. We made plans. And then we turned the tables. We became the hunters. We became so good at hunting that we drove entire species to extinction just for sport. We got so good at killing that we had to invent rules to stop ourselves from killing everything, including each other. She tapped the cargo container, and the sound echoed to the bay like a gunshot. Half the raiders flinched. Now, fast forward a few thousand years. We've conquered our planet. We've reached the stars. We've met hundreds of species across the galaxy. And you know what we learned? Almost none of you came from Deathworlds. Almost none of you had to fight for every single day of survival the way we did. You evolved on nice planets. Safe planets. Planets with reasonable gravity and breathable atmospheres, and predators that actually gave you a fair chance. Maya's expression hardened, and for a moment, she looked far older than 16. She looked ancient and tired and coldly furious. So when you decided to raid a human station, when you thought you could just waltz in here and take our children like we were some kind of resource to be harvested, you forgot one critical fact. We remember what it's like to be prey. And we swore as a species that we would never, ever be prey again. Cormitha's weapon lowered slightly. Around him, his raiders were exchanging glances, their confidence visibly eroding with every word Maya spoke. "I'm 16 years old," Maya said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "In human terms, I'm barely more than a child myself. I've never been in a real war. Never seen actual combat outside of training simulations and self-defense classes. I'm literally the softest, safest, most protected version of humanity you could possibly encounter." She spread her arms wide, presenting herself as a target, and her grin turned absolutely savage. "And I just killed 4 of your warriors without breaking a sweat. So imagine, just imagine, what a real human soldier could do to you. Imagine what a Special Forces operative could do. Imagine what would happen if you made humanity truly angry. If you threatened not just a handful of students on a backwater station, but actual human worlds, actual human families." The silence in the docking bay was absolute. Even the hostages in the cargo containers had stopped making noise. Everyone mesmerized by the small human girl, who had somehow become the most dangerous thing in the room. "I'll tell you what happened," Maya said softly. "We hunt you. Across every system, through every jump point, to the very edge of known space and beyond. We'd hunt you with the same determination our ancestors used to hunt mammoths across ice sheets, with the same ruthlessness we used to track prey for days across burning deserts, with the same absolute refusal to quit that let us climb to the top of the food chain on a planet that was trying to kill us every single second." She walked toward Cormith now, closing the distance between them with steady, measured steps. Her hands were empty. Her posture was relaxed. But every raider in that bay had their weapons trained on her, and not a single one pulled the trigger. "So here's what happens next," Maya said, stopping directly in front of Cormith, close enough to touch. "You're going to open those cargo containers. You're going to let my friends out. You're going to place all your weapons on the deck, nice and gentle. And then you're going to sit down with your hands, all 4 of them, on your head and wait for station security to arrive." Cormith stared down at her, this tiny creature who barely reached his chest, and saw something in her eyes that made his combat-hardened soul flinch. He saw death. He saw patience. He saw the evolutionary legacy of 1 billion years of survival distilled into one teenage girl who had decided that today, right now, she was done being polite. "And if we refuse?" he asked, though his voice had lost all its earlier authority. Maya's smile widened into something that couldn't quite be called human anymore. "Then I stop being nice. And Cormith, you really, really don't want to see me stop being nice. Because everything I've done so far, that was me being gentle. That was me showing restraint. That was me remembering that we have laws and civilization and consequences." She leaned in closer, and her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the bay. "But if you hurt one more human, if you make me choose between being civilized and protecting my people, I will show you what millions of years of Deathworld evolution actually looks like. I will show you why humans don't have natural predators anymore. Why we're the only species on our planet that hunts for sport. Why we looked at the food chain and decided we'd rather burn it down than accept our place in it. Cormutha's weapon fell from his hands and clattered on the deck. Around him, 11 other weapons followed suit. The raiders sat down, placing their hands on their heads exactly as instructed, and not a single one of them looked away from the small human girl who had just dismantled their entire worldview. Smart, Maya said approvingly. She walked over to the nearest cargo container and punched in the release code. The door hissed open, and her classmates started pouring out, crying and laughing and grabbing onto each other. Her best friend, a girl named Rachel, threw her arms around Maya and squeezed hard enough to crack ribs. "Oh my God, Maya. I thought we were dead. I thought they were going to sell us to slavers or worse. And then you just do what needed doing." Maya finished calmly, hugging Rachel back. "You okay? Everyone okay?" Rachel pulled back and stared at her friend, really looked at her for the first time. The blood on her uniform, the cold satisfaction in her eyes, the absolute absence of shock or regret or anything approaching normal teenage trauma responses. "What are you?" Rachel whispered. Maya's expression softened slightly, and for a moment, she looked like the normal 16-year-old girl her friends knew, the one who stressed about calculus tests and complained about cafeteria food and laughed too loud at stupid jokes. "I'm human," she said simply. "Same as you. Same as everyone else on this station. We just forget sometimes, living out here in civilized space, what that actually means, what we're actually capable of when someone pushes us too far." Station security arrived 3 minutes later, led by Commander Torres, a grizzled veteran who'd seen his share of combat situations. He took one look at the docking bay, the surrendered raiders, the freed hostages, and Mayachin standing in the middle of it all covered in purple blood, and his jaw actually dropped. "Report." He managed to croak out. Maya shrugged, suddenly looking very young and very tired. "Hostile boarding action repelled. 12 raiders in custody for deceased. 0 human casualties. Hostages secured. I'd really like to go home and take a shower now, if that's okay." Torres stared at her for a long moment, then started laughing. It was a kind of laugh that held equal parts disbelief and profound respect. "You know what, Chen? You can have the rest of the week off. Hell, take 2 weeks. You've earned it." Maya grinned and started walking toward the exit, but Cormutha's voice stopped her. "Human. Maya-chun." She turned back, one eyebrow raised in question. "We came looking for prey," Cormutha said slowly, his translator rendering his words with something approaching respect. "We found an apex predator wearing a school uniform. We will tell our people. We will warn them. Never again will Kalksari raiders target human stations." Maya nodded once, accepting the promise for what it was. Then her grin returned, sharp and bright, and absolutely unrepentant. "Good, because next time, I might not be in such a good mood. Next time, I might let my mom handle it. And trust me, you don't want that. She's a lawyer, and lawyers are way scarier than teenagers with anger management issues." She walked out of the docking bay to scattered laughter and applause from her classmates. Behind her, 12 Kalksari raiders sat in custody, fundamentally changed by their encounter with a human child who had reminded them of a universal truth. Predators come in all sizes, but the most dangerous ones are the ones that learn to smile while they hunt, the ones that remember being prey and decided never again, the ones from Deathworlds who wear school uniforms and go to chess club and look completely harmless right up until the moment they decide you've crossed a line, the ones named Maya-chun, who carry the legacy of 4 billion years of survival in their DNA and the stubborn refusal to die that kept their species alive through ice ages and plagues and 1,000 extinction events that should have wiped them out. The ones who prove, again and again, that the most dangerous words in the galaxy are the ones humans say right before they stop playing nice. They saw a schoolgirl. They didn't know a Deathworld predator lived under her skin. And by the time they learned the truth, it was far too late to run.